A summer abroad. Are you sure you'll manage all alone? My sister Catherine asked me as I packed my bags to leave for the airport. Don't you have second thoughts about it? I didn't. I had waited for this opportunity of studying abroad for a semester at Queen Mary University in London, and now that I had the conditional letter in my hand, I didn't have the audacity to turn it down. Max, I have prepared your duffel bag, and there is a medkit in the side pocket, just so it's an easy access, Mom said. I smiled and nodded at her. Her eyes were teary, but she smiled back. I just want you to be happy, she whispered, and went out of the room. As I sat on my bed staring at the luggage, I envisioned stepping into the hallways of the university for the first time, and a wave of excitement leapt over me. I imagined the vibrant energy that would fill the air, echoing chatter of students rushing to their classes. I had chosen anthropology and liberal arts for my exchange semester. I couldn't wait to step into a world brimming with opportunities where I had the chance to meet new people, observe new cultures, and expand my knowledge in ways I had never imagined. Yet nestled within that excitement, there was a hint of nervousness. Thoughts of being the new student, navigating through unfamiliar hallways, and adapting to a different educational system pinched in my mind. What if I don't like it there? Would I be able to fit in? Would I be able to keep up with the academic demands? These questions whispered, testing my confidence. I kept reminding myself of my bucket list. This was one of my wishes. I had always wanted to be on my own. It did sound intimidating, but I couldn't change my mind now. As I gathered my thoughts, I made a mental checklist of the things I looked forward to. I couldn't wait to try the bagels from the famous bakery everyone had talked about, explore new subjects that piqued my curiosity, and play basketball. I was eager to join clubs and extracurricular activities where I could meet like-minded individuals and discover new passions. Seriously, you don't have Nutella bagels in Turkey? Carol, my groupmate, snorted. It was my first week in London and we had a presentation on cultural pruning for the anthropology class. Our presentation group had decided to meet in the cafeteria after class to prepare for it. We do have the sesame seed ones, and trust me, they are better, I replied to Carol, who was stuffing her mouth with the Nutella one. I felt like I was poles apart from the rest of the lot. Whenever I walked through the bustling campus surrounded by students chatting and laughing with their friends, a sense of isolation creeped into my thoughts. I was homesick. It seemed as if everyone around me effortlessly fit in, effortlessly belonged, while I stood on the fringes, feeling like an outsider. Their confidence and ease in situations contrasted starkly with my own self-consciousness. They effortlessly engaged in conversations and seamlessly formed connections, while I struggled to find my place in this overwhelming environment. So, what were you guys planning to choose? As in, area, I mean. We have to do the case study on a culturally rich area, Jack said, scribbling on his notebook to check if his pen worked. I have no clue, Carol replied. How about Camden Town? It's known for its vibrant atmosphere, mix of people, and diverse markets. We could explore the different cultures represented there and interact with the locals, David said. I looked at him in a trance. His face was perfectly symmetrical, and he had beautiful blue eyes. He waved his hand in front of me to get me out of my trance, and I instantly felt embarrassed. We could explore the local markets, visit community centers, and maybe even attend a live music performance to get a taste of the vibrant atmosphere there, Jack said. I did not know about the place they were talking about, but David was an all-rounder in class and our presentation was in safe hands. I could see it in his face. He always knew what he was talking about. David was always at the top. That was what every other person had told me on my first day. He consistently got the highest grades in all subjects and understood even the most difficult topics with ease. I had my calculus class with him and he was the only one in our class who was clear on his concepts. The rest often asked him for help and he never denied it. Not only was David excellent in his studies, but he was also a fantastic athlete. One could tell by looking at his muscles and physique, it was perfect. Whether it was soccer, basketball, or running, he showed incredible skills and determination. He was a natural talent who made a big difference in any team he joined. I was glad when the teams got sorted out on the first day and I ended up in his. Everyone admired his good sportsmanship and I wanted to be on his team. Carol had also told me that David had a gift for music and played the guitar very well. What's up with you? Carol pinched me. Nothing, just zoned out, I replied, rubbing my eyes. The midterm exams were approaching and I had no clarity on my calculus concepts. I just don't feel good. I'll take a break from the lecture, I told Carol and left for the cafeteria. As I walked into the university cafeteria, a wave of homesickness washed over me. The bustling atmosphere and unfamiliar faces only served to amplify my longing for the comfort and familiarity of home. It had been 2 months now since I arrived in London for my studies. And while I was excited about the new experiences, a part of me couldn't help but yearn for the taste of home-cooked meals and the warmth of my family's presence. I missed everyone. The thick aroma of baked beans and pasta filled the air. I was tired of eating cafeteria food for so long. It made me long for the familiar scents that used to fill our kitchen back home, especially the lasagna and rolls. Turkish cuisine was rare in London, and the only restaurant bistro that served it was a 2-hour drive from my apartment. Now in this bustling university cafeteria, I longed for that connection, for the taste of home that seemed so far away. I felt nauseous and a tear rolled down my cheek. Everything seemed foreign and distant, a stark reminder of my current distance from home. While some students eagerly filled their plates, sharing laughter and stories with their friends, I couldn't help but feel like an outsider in the sea of unfamiliar faces. With a heavy heart, I cautiously selected a plate of food, trying to choose the items that looked somewhat familiar. I looked around for a place to sit. Instantly, I saw a familiar face at the nearest table. It was David. He was munching on an apple and jotting down something in his notebook. He gave me a friendly smile when his eyes met mine, and I went over to sit with him. "Skipped class?" he asked. Didn't feel well. What about you?" "You are supposed to be in class, no?" I asked him. "I had my basketball practice. Skipped class," David smirked. "Ooh, so the toppers skip classes too," I messed with him. He laughed and thumped his fist on the table. His pen fell. As he bent over to pick it up at the same time, our hands brushed each other's. I felt a jolt and immediately pulled my hand away. David was still grinning. "Trust me, Max, there are things that I am terrible at," he said with a giggle. "You've never seen me in acting class, and I'm glad about that." "Oh, come on." I didn't believe him. David can't be terrible at anything. He's an all-rounder after all. The inspiration of every new student at Queen Mary, the favorite student of all the professors. We both laughed at my tone until my eyes were teary again. I went silent for a while. "Is there something wrong?" David asked politely. "Oh, just worrying about the exam. I'm terrible at calculus. Don't know how I'll pass this one." I looked away. "Have you tried studying with friends?" he asked. "I don't really have any, no one specifically that can help me with the algebra and trigonometry. The words made me nauseous like before." "Well, you have me," David looked at me. "Only if you deem me fit enough to be your teacher." We both smiled. "Sir, I'd be humbled to take your classes," I said. "Perfect, Max. When do you want to start?" he asked. "You can come over to my apartment if that's okay with you. I usually go off campus after 6, I replied. "Of course. Please text me the address." He gathered his stuff and started packing his backpack. "I'll see you after practice then, Max." I could already see us becoming best friends. His aura made me feel calm. As I sat alone at the table after David had gone, surrounded by the chatter of students engaged in animated conversations, a pang of homesickness hit me hard. I missed the warmth of my family's presence, the shared laughter and conversations over meals that made even the simplest of dishes feel like a feast. I tried to call Mom the next day, but she didn't pick up. But amidst my longing, I realized that London also held the potential for new connections and experiences. David was one of them. From the moment I first interacted with David, his warm smile and genuine kindness made me feel at ease. We effortlessly struck up our conversation, and I had missed these chats with my old friends. It was as if we'd known each other for years, despite only meeting recently. I made a promise to myself to step out of my comfort zone, to engage in conversations with fellow students, and perhaps even discover the beauty of their traditions and cuisines. Over time, as I ventured beyond the confines of my longing, I began to appreciate the university for what it truly was. A space that could bridge the gap between my homesickness and my newfound experiences. It became a place where I could meet new friends, share stories, and find solace in the company of others who were also navigating their complexities of being away from home. David was a major help in all this. His lectures helped me get my concepts clear, and I aced my exam. He came to my apartment often, and conversations with him developed into small therapy sessions. I had started getting used to his company. The university cafeteria no longer felt like a symbol of distance, as David and I met nearly every day to get our coffee. "I have my final today," David said while sipping his cappuccino. "You will come to watch, right?" "Of course I will," I smiled. "No class today?" "No lesson for today. My student deserves a break. He has done exceptionally well," David patted me on the back. "I can only imagine the effort you have put into this," I smiled at him. "This game means a lot to me, Max," David sighed. "My father was a huge basketball fan. He used to take me to the game every Saturday. He wanted to see me play too, but life has other plans, I guess." He passed away around my 8th birthday. I wish he was here. I would have made him so proud. I could see the tears in his eyes, and I immediately held his hand without thinking. You're making him proud. I know that. I looked away. David had never told me about his loss. I realized how important the tournament was to him. I planned on giving him a good dinner on his victory. He would win. He always did. I watched from the bleachers, my eyes fixated on David as he stepped onto the basketball court, ready for the highly anticipated final. The gymnasium buzzed with excitement, the energy palpable in the air. My heart pounded with anticipation, knowing how much this game meant to him. Carol and Jack were sitting beside me too. Well, we didn't know you'd be here too, Carol said. Oh, I'm here for David, I said. We've become great friends lately. Oh yeah, right. As if we can't tell that. You never join us after class. We have seen you both together almost every day in the cafeteria. Jack sounded pissed off. It's related to calculus mostly. He is a great help, I covered for myself. Was it really about calculus, or I just wanted an excuse to spend time with my new friend? As the referee blew the whistle, the game was set into motion. David paced with grace, his every move calculated and precise. Everything was effortless for him, dribbling past defenders and making accurate passes that left me in awe. He was perfect at everything. I cheered loudly, my voice blending with the chorus of supporters as David showcased his skills. It was evident that he had worked tirelessly to develop his basketball prowess. Man, he really knows what he's doing, Carol was impressed. She was looking at David with an open mouth. Of course, he's David, I nudged her. I wish he was my boyfriend. He's a dapper guy, just look at him. All the girls want to be with him, she said. Out of your league, miss, I laughed. Oh, come on, I can try, she gave me a wicked smile. I felt odd. I didn't want anyone to be close to him. But why? Why was I being so possessive? Does he have a girlfriend? I asked hesitantly. No, never seen him with any girl, Carol said. He's a little reserved with everyone, I guess. Maybe, I whispered back. The game was intense, with both teams fiercely competing for victory. David's competitive spirit shone through as he hustled for balls, fought for rebounds, and defended against his opponents. He will win this. He has to, I kept whispering under my breath. The students in the court went silent as the end approached. David's team needed 2 more points to win against the Bulls. I closed my eyes shut. The sound of the buzzer made me alert again. David's team had won. Do you like the food here? I looked at David, who was sitting poised. Of course I do. A treat is always yummy. He chuckled. You are amazing out there, I said. I had to be the best version of myself. You were watching, he grinned. Oh, I was impressed. So were the others, Carol and Jack too, I said. Was Tracy there? He asked, among the spectators. No. Who is she? I asked hesitantly. Oh, just a really good friend, David said. I thought about how Carol had mentioned that David didn't hang out with any girl. I wonder if she was right. I see. She's in our class? I asked him. Nah, she's from my hometown. I asked her to come to the game. He smiled. She has always been there for me. We have been friends for a few years now. I didn't know the reason for the pang of jealousy that I felt. Why was I being so possessive about him? That is nice, I said. Do you want to try their Alfredo pasta? I changed the topic. Yes, please, and we can go somewhere for ice cream afterward. David beamed. Sure, I smiled. I sat across from David, unable to tear my eyes away, watching him eat. I couldn't help but be captivated by his presence. There was something about him that drew me in, something I couldn't quite explain. As I observed David, I felt a mix of emotions stirring inside me. It was more than just friendship, something deeper. Whenever he laughed, my heart skipped a beat, and when our eyes met, I felt a warmth spreading through me. Processing my own feelings was a challenge. I had never felt this way for someone. As the evening progressed, I battled with conflicting emotions. On one hand, I cherished the bond we shared and wanted nothing more than for our friendship to flourish. On the other hand, a voice within me whispered for a deeper connection, a longing for something beyond friendship. His mention of someone else, whether a friend or a close acquaintance, made me jealous. But in the midst of my internal struggle, I knew that I couldn't let envy consume me. It was important to cherish the moments we had, to be genuinely happy for David and his interactions with others. I had to remind myself that our friendship was valuable, regardless of its deeper potential. I didn't want to lose him. Lost in my thoughts, I glanced back at David, studying his features. The way his eyes sparkled with excitement, the curve of his lips as he spoke, it all stirred longing within me that I couldn't ignore. I wanted to reach across the table to hold his hand and confess this new feeling that was surfacing. But as the evening wore on, the weight of unspoken words became heavier. I couldn't bring myself to risk our friendship, to potentially lose what we had. The fear of rejection and the unknown outcome paralyzed me, trapping my heart in a state of perpetual longing, and so I remained silent, my feelings locked away in the depths of my soul. I continued to engage in the conversation, laughing when it was expected of me, but all the while my gaze kept returning to David. It was a bittersweet moment, to be so close to him and yet feel a chasm separating us. It was pouring when we stepped out of the restaurant. Oh, that's a sight. We didn't take notice of the weather outside. David shuddered. I could hardly hear him over the rain. David and I stood closely together under the small canopy outside the restaurant, trying to shield ourselves from the pouring rain. The raindrops fell steadily, creating a symphony of soft pitter-patters around us. I couldn't help but observe David's reaction to the rain. He tilted his head back, closing his eyes and letting the raindrops gently caress his face. Each droplet seemed to dance on his skin, leaving trails of glistening water in their wake. "How will you go home?" I asked loudly. "You can stay at my place tonight if you want." "It sounds convenient. We can prepare for the calculus quiz as well," David said. My place was a 10 minutes walk from the restaurant. I immediately grabbed the towels when we entered the apartment. "Here, please, I'll search for ibuprofen just in case. I don't want us having a fever." "Thanks." David started drying his hair. He was shivering. "Here, come." I opened my arms wide to hug him. "This will make you feel warm." "Ah, sure," David thought for a second and then hugged me. We both smiled at each other as we parted. "I do have some ice cream in the fridge, but I think hot cocoa is a need for now," I said. "Yes, please, I'll help you out." He rubbed his hair and smiled. I scurried to the kitchen, my footsteps leaving wet imprints on the tiled floor. Taking out a saucepan, I filled it with milk and set it on the stove. The sound of the rain still echoing outside as the milk warmed and the aroma of chocolate filled the air. I couldn't help but steal glances at David, a flush of excitement creeping up my cheeks. We worked in tandem, our hands brushing occasionally, sending tiny sparks of electricity through my veins. We carried the mugs to the living room. The aroma of cocoa following us was a delightful trail. Taking a seat on the couch, we nestled into its plush cushions, our bodies still damp but our spirits lifted. "Oh, this is so good." David cupped the mug in his hands, feeling the warmth. He took another sip and spilled some on his shirt. Okay, chill," I chuckled and grabbed the towel again. I gently wiped his shirt. "Thank you," he giggled. "Now bring your textbook. We should get going." "Yes, sir," we both laughed. As we worked through the practice problems together, David encouraged me every step of the way. He praised my progress, highlighting the areas where I excelled and offering guidance in areas where I struggled. His belief in my abilities instilled confidence in me, making me feel more capable and motivated to learn. He brought out the best in me. I was so used to his presence now. Occasionally, our eyes would meet and a sense of connection would pass between us. It was as if our shared pursuit of knowledge had deepened our bond. He knew it too. I could see it, but maybe it was hard for both of us to decipher our feelings. In one fleeting moment, as our hands reached for the same pencil, our fingers brushed against each other. A jolt of electricity coursed through my veins, and I felt my cheeks flush with a tinge of shyness. It was a simple touch, innocent and accidental, yet it sent my heart into a frenzy. "Are you even concentrating?" He pinched me. I realized that I'd been smiling all the time. "Of course I am," I lied. I wondered if he could see the struggle inside me through my eyes. "Maybe it's the weather. We're both pretty worn out." He looked at the clock. "Let's wrap it up for now." I pretended to yawn. "Yes, we should sleep now. My body aches." David snickered at the quote over my bed. "A little love is all we need." "Do you really believe that?" He asked in a serious tone after noticing my expression. "Yeah, I do," I whispered. "What is love?" he asked. "I want you to tell me because I have never found love after my father's death." "Well, you can only know that when you're in love. It can't be put into words otherwise," I said after a pause and looked away. He sighed. "Do you want to see my comic book collection?" I tried to divert his mind. "You like comics too?" He was excited all of a sudden. I could see his eyes got bigger as we approached the collection. I carefully took out my favorite comics and shared them with him. Each comic was special to me and had its own story. I told David about my first comic collection, the times I spent discussing fan theories and the sense of belonging in a fandom. He listened with interest and asked questions. It felt like the comics were bringing us closer, and I was glad to bring up a topic of his interest. We talked about the characters, the stories, the amazing artwork. It was like we were entering a whole new world together. I noticed that David seemed particularly interested in my Marvel comics. A limited edition, this one. I picked the book up and placed it gently on his lap. Oh, I'd been searching for this one. All of them got sold by the time I saved up my pocket money for them, he smiled, remembering old times. It's all yours then. No questions asked. I looked into his eyes. Oh, I don't know what to say. Can't deny a gift from my best student. Can I, Max? He placed his hand over mine, and I smiled instantly. Let's sleep now, shall we? He yawned. Yes, please. Sorry, you must be tired. I returned the rest of the books on the rack and we went to bed. The room was quiet and I could hear David breathing softly. The weight of my thoughts still wasn't letting me sleep. I couldn't help looking at him. His expression was peaceful, and he looked more handsome than ever. I gently traced my finger through his face. He was beautiful. I wanted to hug him close, but feared his reaction. I turned my back towards him to control my feelings, but it didn't help. In a spur of the moment, David mumbled in his sleep and placed his hand over me, drawing me close. He mumbled something again and dozed off. I was still as a rock. His embrace made the feeling stronger. I felt affection for him, I realized. As I lay nestled in David's arms, a sense of peace washed over me. The rhythmic rise and fall of his chest against mine created a comforting symphony that put me to sleep almost instantly. Our bodies were intertwined, fitting together like two puzzle pieces, as if we were made to be held in each other's embrace. I could feel the steady beat of David's heart against my cheek. Its cadence, a gentle reminder of the affection I had for him. His arms wrapped around me, providing a sense of security and warmth that melted away any worries or doubts. At that moment, there was nowhere else I'd rather be. I felt the happiest I could ever be. His fingers softly rubbed my back and I opened my eyes. He was still sleeping. I feared he would react differently to all this when he woke up. I closed my eyes at the sensation of his fingers softly grazing my back, leaving a trail of warmth in their wake. I took a deep breath and hugged him closer. Our bodies molded together effortlessly, as if drawn together by an invisible force seeking connection. As morning's light began to seep through the curtains, I awakened from my sleep first, opening my eyes. I found myself still wrapped in David's arms, his breath tickling my skin. I couldn't help but smile, knowing that it was all real and not a dream. A surge of courage propelled me forward, urging me to confess my feelings for him. I didn't know if he was still asleep. With a voice filled with equal parts fear and love, I whispered, David, I love you. I love you so much. I have never felt this for anyone. David opened his eyes as soon as I ended. I flushed red and turned my face away. I tried to get up from the bed, but he pulled me by my arm and I fell over him. I love you more, Max, he whispered near my neck and gently kissed it. Oh, David. I felt a shudder run down my body. I've known for a long time now, he smiled, cupping my face in his hands. I hugged him tightly. Hey, he grabbed my chin and pulled my face closer to his. I mumbled, closing my eyes. His lips gently brushed against mine. We both paused and looked at each other for a second. You asked me last night about love, right? I smiled at him. He mumbled, still holding my chin. This is how it feels, David. This is love. I looked at him. Oh, baby. He kissed me again on the lips, this time with passion. In that moment, I knew love, and I saw forever in David. The end. Would you approach someone first or wait for them to give you a sign? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.